Hi, my name's Bev Ferris and I'm the editor of the Business Travel magazine, and I would like to welcome you to our latest business travel video. Today I'm speaking with Josh Gunn from CTM. Hi Josh.
Hi Bev, thank you very much for having me on the call today. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Josh, first of all, tell me a bit about your role in the company. What do you do?
Yeah, sure. So my role as global head of product marketing is to work with all of our regional development teams. So we operate a distributed development model across CTM where we've got product teams in North America, the UK, Asia, and also in Australia. So I work with them on communicating the product updates and our product strategy primarily to our customers around the new things that we're developing, new innovations that we've got planned around our roadmap, and also making sure that customer feedback feeds into our development pipeline as well.
Okay, and today we're particularly talking about your online booking tool, Lightning, and
Yes.
a particular aspect of that because you are confident that your booking tool alleviates some of the frustrations of travel managers, particularly in relation to carbon budgets and carbon emissions at point of sale, which is obviously a hugely important thing now for travel buyers. So tell me about your product and why you think it's meeting those the needs of travel buyers.
Yeah, thank you for the great introduction around Lightning as well. So Lightning is our proprietary online booking platform. It's an established online booking tool, and one of the primary things when we were first building Lightning was to make sure that the user interface was clean and modern. You can actually book flights in under 90 seconds. But more recently, what we've been planning and what we've been working on when COVID happened, a lot of teams kind of reduced their across the board, and technology was one of the investments that was scaled back. Technology was actually one of the areas at CTM that we didn't change, and we've doubled down on that since the pandemic too. But the big focus for us, particularly in markets like Europe, has been doing even more with this, putting sustainability front and center in the online booking tool. We work on a really agile development cycle, so every 2 weeks we're adding new innovations and doing new sprints. But part of our broader strategy around people and planet innovation has been the sustainability, well-being, and risk elements of the actual online booking tool. So taking some of those other things that previously might exist in other TMC tools and making sure that they're front and center in the online booking tool. So if I start with, first of all, carbon budgets, which you mentioned. So what we've done is within search results, once you entered your destination, what you'll see a carbon budget bar at the top of the screen. So what that does is it shows, it could be for the company, the team, or even down to the individual traveler, based on the year, the quarter, or the month, however the customer chooses to set that, they can see the remaining carbon budget that they have to spend. Now, what that also does is putting that ahead of the search results rather than hiding it in a pop-up somewhere, is it primes the user to think about the decision they're about to make in terms of which flights do I choose or which mode of travel do I select. The second element that we're doing with sustainability in Lightning is in the actual search results, and this is not uncommon today, is we clearly label the emissions alongside the price. But what we also do is we highlight the greenest choice with a clear banner across the individual search options, say CTM Green Choice, to make it really obvious to the customer. They don't want to necessarily have to sort through and have to check in little drops downs to find the emissions. So we make it really obvious what the greenest choice is. And thirdly, with Lightning, just on sustainability, if you are flying on a route where you could perhaps take a train, we will automatically do a rail search in the background, and we'll highlight that when your search results pop up. So we'll show you at the top of the screen the difference both in the financial savings and also the emission savings between switching from flights to rail. If you look at a London to Edinburgh, for example, you're going to cut emissions on average almost in half. Price not quite as much, but often there's still a saving there as well. So we think by doing these three things, it's making a real difference at the point of sale and actually influencing traveller behaviour.
So with the rail and air, that's quite unusual, is it, to have that in a booking tool? I hear that's quite difficult to do. How have you managed to achieve that?
Sure. So first of all, the air calculations or the flight emission calculations are really granular. So we partner with a company called RDC Aviation, and what that allows us to do is make those calculations for air based on really granular data, such as the engine type, the age of the aircraft, the investment that airline is making in sustainable aviation fuels, and also things like the seat configuration. So how big are the first class cabins, other premium cabins, and economy seats, which is great for calculating between one airline and the next, and also on the same day. You might have the same airline at two flights at different times in the day, but because it's a different plane, it's a different aircraft with different engine and perhaps different seat configurations, you might find that an economy seat, there'll be a variance of anywhere between sort of 10 and 30% in the emissions just on, two economy seats on the same day with the same airline. So that lets us provide a really granular view at the airline level. And then on the rail side, we work with a number of different rail providers through a combination of APIs and direct partnerships with International Rail Limited, Evolvi, Trainline, and Acertis. So depending on whether it's UK, European, domestic, cross-border, that kind of option. And so we run that calculation in the background for a set number of routes where we know it's logical that someone might switch to a train. And then I think the technical work that's gone into that is really extensive, but what the user actually sees is really simple. It's just, if you switch, you're going to save 46% in terms of your emissions, and you might save a certain amount financially as well. So we wanted to make sure that regardless of how much work we put into it, it's a really simple choice for the user.
Excellent. So are you already seeing results from this? Are you seeing people changing their behaviours? Can you give me some real life examples of what impact the technology is having on your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's tricky for us to compare like apples to apples in terms of data, because a lot of customers are adopting these changes now, and for the last couple of years their travel has tailed off, and it's coming back. Not everybody is at the same rate in terms of how quickly they've gone back to 2019 levels. But what we are seeing is companies are actively making decisions around what they want their emissions to be in the future, and how do they plan looking forward rather than looking back. So I was at a customer advisory board for Europe 2 weeks ago, and one of the conversations we've been having with them there and prior to that was, if we want to look forward and we know roughly how many trips we're going to make on certain routes, and we know roughly how many hotel nights we're going to do in the future, can we set a carbon budget that is tied to that, rather than, well, let's look at 2018 or 2019 data, which is perhaps, you might say, well, that's the easy option. But if everybody was traveling at their absolute peak, then of course you're going to be well under your carbon budget. So it's not necessarily where everybody wants to start. Their businesses have changed, travel has changed to follow suit. So we built a calculator for them. So this is a separate module. It's outside of Lightning, but it allows travel managers to put in what routes they're going to be flying on, put an estimated amount, and then we'll provide them with a calculation on their emissions, which they can then use to inform the budget they want to set for different teams or for the whole company, whether that's for the year, the quarter, or the month as well. So it's meaning that we're having more of these conversations. We are seeing a switch in certain instances between behavior at point of sale, which is great. It's why we've designed it. But the great thing is it's pushing sustainability higher up on the agenda in terms of the conversations that we're having with customers around everything from SAF investments through to what we do at the point of sale. So yeah, we're really, really pleased with it so far.
Excellent. So obviously we've talked about sustainability, which is a key issue for buyers, but the other issue is duty of care risk, how to protect their travellers. So what is your tool doing for travel managers on that side of things?
Yeah, sure. So risk management tools, combination of things like alerts, color-coded risk maps of the world with traveler locations on, they've existed for quite some time, and we're no different there. CTM Risk Hub has had those capabilities for quite a long time, which is great if you are a risk manager or you're in HR or you're a travel program manager and you want to see the high-level view of where are the high-risk destinations where my people are about to travel or are right now, especially when something happens. But it doesn't necessarily impact what gets booked in the first place. And the OBT has kind of sat outside of this realm of risk management in many ways, particularly if you work with your TMC for risk and you have an OBT from a different company. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the same risk data that a travel or risk manager sees in those risk tools is also shown to the people booking travel up front, particularly if there's something happening in real time. So when you put your destination into Lightning today, if there are a number of different risk alerts specific to that destination, that city that you're traveling to, they will show ahead of your search results. So we forewarn the traveler, and this could be anything from terrorism, severe weather warnings, all the way down to things like tube strikes in London, which unfortunately they pop up quite a lot if you're making a trip to London today. But we want to make sure that people are aware of any disruption that could be headed their way on their next trip. And equally, if they are traveling to somewhere where there has been an incident which puts their duty of care at risk, then they can adequately prepare for it. But it also stops trips being booked and then cancelled 2 days later when somebody actually goes and checks a risk report and says, well, actually, we don't want you to travel here. And all of a sudden you've incurred booking fees, you've incurred change cancellation fees. So there's savings to be made by avoiding unnecessary bookings in the first place. And I think that's a big benefit for what Lightning does with risk today.
Definitely. Now, so I'm assuming you're continually developing this tool. So what's next? What's next on the agenda? What's the next development?
Sure. So next we have there's one other thing actually that we've been working on, and this we're going to continue to build out, is around the area of traveller well-being. So duty of care and risk management is its own area that we've been working on, but looking at how much people are traveling, what type of travel they're doing on any given day, and how that fits in with the recent travel they've done. We've added a new ability into Lightning where we can set this at a client level. So the customer will determine how many hours they are comfortable with somebody doing a round trip in the same day, which for companies that do a lot of domestic travel, you can, let's say you might travel from London to Manchester and then maybe perhaps back in the same day. Now, what we might say is the client wants to set a limit of, if they're traveling more than 6 hours in the same day, then we could recommend, well, actually, why don't you travel off peak on rail the night before, include a hotel stay, and then so you'll arrive to the meeting fresh, prepared. You won't spend 6-7 hours of one day traveling, which is not great for anybody. But also what we find is that if you travel off peak, particularly in the UK, and include a hotel stay, you'll still find a financial saving than if you travel at peak times. So there's that double benefit of the company benefits from a cost saving, but they also benefit because their travelers arrive ready to perform, and they would prefer doing that rather than spending a whole day traveling back and forth. So that's something that we're expanding at the moment and looking at other ways that we can incorporate that. The other area, which is it's quite timely, and there's a lot of work going on at CTM around this, particularly with our online booking platforms, but with our other tools as well, is around NDC and catering for changes in airline strategy. We've all seen the news around American is shifting content to NDC, and there's a deadline for April of that. One of the benefits of CTM's regional development model that I touched on earlier is that we have local teams working on these partnerships and NDC connections in regions. So we've got people working with connections with American, Lufthansa, BA, Qantas in Australia, whereas perhaps in some other online booking tools where they might pick the biggest market and they'll pick the biggest carrier and they'll work on that, and then 6 months down the line they'll get to some of the others. We would rather make sure that everywhere around the world we've got the best connections with the top airlines that are most important to our customers in those regions. So that's something we're doing a lot of work on across the teams today. We sit on IATA's executive council around NDC, so we're well aware of the changes that they're looking to make, but we can move quite quickly when they do happen as well, which is good. We're level 4 NDC certified, and we want to continue to modernize the booking experience. So whether we have to do that with GDSs through NDC or aggregators like Travel Fusion, which we work with in Europe as well, we're ready for whatever comes next in terms of airline content.
So will you be ready by April?
Yes, we will. Yeah.
Fabulous. That's good to hear. So thank you so much for that very brief but very thorough overview of the online booking tool Lightning. If anyone wants to find out more, what's the best way for them to contact you? Who should they get in touch with?
Sure. No, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been great to share some of what we're up to with Lightning at CTM. Anybody can find us at travelctm.com, or they can email us if they want to talk to our sales team at sales@travelctm.com.
Thank you so much, Josh. Lovely to talk to you. Have a great day.
Likewise, Bev. Great talking to you. Take care.